You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Bad Batch recaps here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is Don, Connor, and Andrew back once again to talk about the Bad Batch. We start off a new story arc this week with the episode The Crossing. And Connor's actually here in a full appearance this time, not making a last-second cameo at the end of the episode.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah.
Post Super Bowl.
He's back, and he's ready to go to talk the batch. One thing I really did enjoy about this week's episode was the fact that, like I said, it started the beginning of a new arc. Like, it felt very Clone Wars. Like, the two-parter episodes we've had this season have been really nice, but they've been, like, airing at the same time. So to see an arc start one week and then continue on in the following weeks, it feels nice because the story, the episodes feel very like standalone this season. So to see it continue onwards into the next episodes really excite me and get me excited that we started stuff in this week that's going to factor into
next week.
Next week and what we're going to be seeing. No. Again,
keep it short, I think online fandom has really, really ruined people's perception of stories and patience.
My thing is
patience.
I feel like
it's very much the
filler to me is the new term for an episode of a show that they don't like.
It's like filler and cameo. Everyone says cameos were in Mandalorian season 2. I didn't know supporting characters who helped Din Djarin's journey were cameos all of a sudden. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, the definition of a cameo is like Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba in
is if I showed up.
Or you
at
the end of the last week. Yeah.
For 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a cameo is
like
not a guest spot
Gunji
for like a whole episode.
A couple weeks ago,
people called Gunji a cameo.
I don't know. I'm saying if they did. Or if
star.
they called,
people have forgotten what guest star means. Yeah.
If they called Sender Chuchi last week a cameo, I'm like, she was literally the main character of the arc. So like,
it's like
literally the plot revolved around her for the most part.
Around her,
my microphone.
But
it's just to lay 2 cents in. It's very much kind of a thing because you said before we went on air briefly, Connor, that it's very analogous to trying to turn story and art into kind of like stats. And that
sports
and that kind of thing, like very much statistics, kind of like sports, and it doesn't because art is driven a lot more on like feelings and a lot more of stuff just how stars is. And I think reducing guest appearances down to cameos or like trying to say, oh, this was filler because it didn't seem to advance the main overarching mega narrative of the show. And oftentimes I people who make those kind of criticisms, not everyone, as people make them in good faith, but some people who throw out the filler thing for some episodes, they're kind of like, they don't really apply it properly because this, even going by like the standards of, oh, this didn't advance the main plot, it actually does. Like, literally there is a huge development within the first 5 minutes of this story, like that alters the whole thing, and it doesn't even get rectified by the end.
No,
that would be filler.
But to start off the episode, our discussion with the episode, the fact that they stole the ship in the first 5 minutes of it, for me at least, was really.
I have my theories about who that is.
Yeah, and
I don't know if this was because I don't know if you guys have ever had this thought before this episode, but I never thought at all that anything that would happen to the batch would involve their ship's gonna get stolen. I never thought their ship would get stolen, ever. Blown up, probably.
Yeah.
Stolen?
No. Is, I mean, because we've seen, the Falcon get stolen in some of the Star Wars comics before, but, the Marauder getting stolen, that was interesting to me. And I like how they started off, and, of course, in my mind, I was like, okay, so they're mining Ipsium, and the whole time I'm like, coaxium maybe, but it's like no, it's something new. There's always got to be explosive power sources in Star Wars, but the weird bandit steals the Marauder, and I was like, is it gonna happen? Because at first I was like, he's gonna blow the ship up, but then no, he just straight up steals it, and we lost Don. So hopefully he comes back soon.
We lost Don the same way same way the Batch
lost the Marauder, yeah. And then we just see him take off with it, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, they're gonna get the ship back at the end of the episode, but then they don't.
Same.
And I'm assuming they're gonna get it back next week, but
either next week or maybe the week after. That's just my
Don's back from being stolen by the guy that stole the Marauder.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I was very surprised.
I literally 5 minutes I have just been, it's been time warp for me. It's just been like freezing, like nothing, like you wouldn't believe. Were you guys just talking about the Marauder?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Return of the webcam.
Everything is
right.
Dying right now.
Yeah, it's happening again. Everything's going wrong. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So if we're talking about the Marauder, getting into that, I really liked. I think it's interesting that person who stole the Marauder, we don't see them. And I think this is why we're probably going to see this come back, because
we don't see their face.
There's been some discussion of, we don't see their face. And I think because it'd be very easy to assume that they just never get the Marauder back, because that would be it would make sense as a plot point. It's a huge galaxy, you know, people come along and steal shit. You know, it happened to Han Solo, and we've never even met the people who did that. But the fact that it's this individual and they're masked, we never see them. I feel like this is going to come back. I feel like we're going to find out who stole the Marauder. Maybe Rex and Echo find this person or something, or like maybe even Crosshair finds them. It'd be very interesting to explore. Do you guys have any theories about who you think it might be?
When I first saw the bandit, I thought it was Hondo, but I don't think it's actually Hondo. I think they would have made it more obvious that it was Hondo.
So that would be funny though. That would be really freaking
so
funny.
My brother it would be really funny. I almost thought it was Katooni. I know it's not Hondo because it's too young. It's clearly a teenager. It's not Katooni because this person has hair and they don't have the tendrils because she's a Thalothian. So my brother had a really interesting theory. His theory was that he thinks it's Aphra. And I wasn't sure about that, but then I looked at the model. She's got the goggles. It's definitely a woman, a young woman. She's got the goggles. The boots are very, very similar to the models I've seen of Aphra in the comics. And, if
you said this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would be down. But I just don't. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just don't see the creators of this show making that deep of a pull. I don't know.
Yeah, does the timeline line up? How old would she be at the time?
If she's a kid, I think it would make sense. I'm not sure. It all depends on I don't know how old Aphra is. I think she's at least in her 30s by the time of the original trilogy. So she could very easily just be in her mid to late teens. She kind of looks like whoever it is, they look like they're early teens. But I think Aphra is a strong possibility based off the hair. The hair length is kind of similar. The goggles are there. The boots. It kind of lines up, and I could see this being a natural point to introduce Aphra for people who haven't read the comics.
As of now, unless that gets changed.
So that would make
right. She would be 6.
Yeah,
she would be 6. Right. Yeah. It does look quite young, but I think that's probably it could probably be.
I don't see a 6-year-old being super capable of stealing a ship. But again, this is Star Wars. People have done freakier things
Star Wars.
At young age.
So. We talked about Jabo Hood. That dude was reprogramming droids. But yeah.
Yes. What if it's Jabo Hood? Oh, what a callback.
That would be a pull and a half.
Guys,
that would be a pull and a half.
That would be a pull. The dude never had to stay on Iego, to be fair. Like he could have, he was free to leave whenever. I could see him.
It's just some
I could see
random
them wanting to
guy.
bring him back.
Or like new character.
They pull a character
new
back that they
character,
haven't
maybe.
used in
Yeah.
15 years and just bring him back for this, but I don't think that's happening.
There's a precedent. There's a precedent on the Bad Batch, but yeah,
there is, yeah. But we see them trying to find a shelter, try to find a place to go to get a new ship, and they end up getting trapped in the Lion King because these herd of space wildebeests start stampeding. Yeah. And this was very much like straight out of the Lion King, which I liked, but they were trying to not blow up the Ipsium because it's gonna explode. And then Wrecker almost gets crushed to death by them at one point. And then they eventually get stuck in there was a storm, wasn't there? And then they try to take shelter in another mine, and then the Ipsium blows up and they get trapped in there. And at that point I was
kind of like a
Yeah. At that point I was like, oh God, it's happening again. I'm like, it's another episode where they're stuck in a cave and they have to get out, and then they got to find something. I'm like, this is like the third or fourth time. But thankfully, the episode went in a different direction because while they were stuck, that wasn't the crux of the episode, which I did enjoy. But
the crux of it was dealing with the emotional
Can we
fall.
talk briefly about? Yeah. Oh, exactly, and that's what like necessary because as much as we liked how the last two-parter really just got all these seismic developments on the main cast, having another episode where you can really sit with the ramifications of what happened, or the fact that they no longer have Echo, it's really good because like there's obviously Omega who's really upset about it. Like she's upset because it's the first time she's had to sort of deal with the fact that this is just as much a squad as it is a family. But you've also got Echo and you've also got Tech and Wrecker who are bickering the whole time before they get trapped, and you kind of get the sense that they're also missing Echo because Echo would normally be the one to kind of break up the fighting, keep them focused, and because he's not there, they do kind of descend into some bickering, and that leads to the cave-in. You know, like Wrecker loses the ship, Tech winds up taking the Ipsium instead of Wrecker in a moment of frustration, and then he drops the Ipsium, and then Wrecker just leaves it instead because he focuses on getting Tech, which is the right move, but it also leads to them getting caved in. It's just a series of decisions that just kind of keep the emotional through line going. Echo is gone, and the Batch are all dealing with that.
I like how the explosiveness of the Ipsium kind of also represents the tension building up in the Batch, mainly with Omega, who, by the way, we promised we weren't going to do this. That thumbnail going around that Omega's annoying. Go fuck yourself. Talk about not knowing what the episode was about and the point of the episode. But that's just me. Let's get on with it. Cave-in. They're caved in.
I didn't know that existed. But yeah, I agree with you, Andrew.
Detail
about
that I just realized like connects to this is like it really showed this little detail, this little interaction. I can't speak. I say this almost every episode, but I just can't. I always trip up on it. Always. The one little interaction where Omega's trying to call for Echo, and she calls him by his call sign at first, and this is Echo. Are you there? Yeah. And then she's like, obviously, you can tell in her voice and in her face, she's pretty like worried and distraught, and like I think it was either Hunter or. Was it Hunter? I think it might have been Hunter.
It was Tech that said that his
he's on
signal's deactivated.
The signal's deactivated. He's on a different mission, and it like really shows where the Bad Batch mental state is at concerning Echo as opposed to Omega. It's like super clear in that little moment, and it's even furthered in the actual cave-in when she's just like.
Bring up the fact that Echo's call sign is Havoc 5.
I thought it was Havoc 4.
It's 5.
Oh, it is? Okay.
5
was
just like 5s.
It got me. It got me.
hate it here.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say as well that like this is actually a really important episode for
I'm
Omega
not even
because
attached to the clones, and that still hurt.
Mm-hmm.
it really does. It really
good soldiers follow orders.
But what I was, yeah. But what I was going to say about Omega was that this is an important story for her because for as mature, emotionally mature as she has been in the series, she is still a child, and we're seeing her dealing with the loss of effectively a big brother, a family member, because that's how she looks at the Bad Batch, and it's kind of, as I think I said like last week, it's kind of revealing this somewhat of this difficult arc that Omega is sort of going to have to come to terms with, that like because she has definitely changed the Batch for the better, because when we first our adventures with them, like back in the 7th season of the Clone Wars, they were all very arch, they were very stock character types, to the point where we were all like, do they really need a show to themselves? They don't seem very like capable of growth, of like dimension. And then Omega gets dropped in the middle of this, and she has brought out all these different sides to the characters, even in Crosshair. So to see that, but the consequence of that is also that the Batch are going to start going in different directions, because they're starting to realize their purpose is beyond fighting, and that is going to take them. That is going to spread them apart eventually, because that is what happens with people discovering their interest, discovering what they feel their purpose is. People do sometimes drift apart. It doesn't mean they're gone, but they will get further apart. They won't always be a tight-knit family unit, and that's something that Omega is struggling with. And that's where we go into Tech, because Tech is dealing with it a lot more pragmatically. He is, but he's trying to deal with it more pragmatically.
The way we get to the core of it in this episode is just wonderful, because it's like there's that little
I have so many good things to say about the Tech stuff. I'm
too.
so many good things. Yeah, like because his logic makes perfect sense. Like when he says, "Oh, that we were here, this squad was here for Echo, it will be there after." That makes sense. There's a logical basis for that, and he doesn't need to all factor in how that impacts Omega emotionally. And it's not even said with malice.
No, but he does say it like he has that like Tech bluntness to it when he says it, and then of course Omega's like, I need to be alone, and Hunter's just like, yo, what the or Wrecker and Hunter are like, yo, what the fuck, like you need to talk to the kid, because they just like act on like it's nothing, and as they're trying to get the boulders away, they're both just like, you need to go talk to the kid, and she's like, what? She said she wanted to be alone, and like you just see those.
I was merely stating the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You see those little.
Like, there's no malice about that.
No, Tech has never been my favorite of the group, but this week he's getting up there. Like, because I like I said on Twitter, when we'll get to the scenes, I felt so seen during these little moments.
Yeah.
Which we will get into when we get to the big conversation with Omega. But it got me right here. But I do want to go to a tweet or a response to a tweet that I posted last night, because someone was talking about how the discourse surrounding, is Omega's character annoying in this one, when it's like she's just mad, and she's mad for a good reason, because she's trying to take everything. And I said, I interpreted the episode as Omega being a stand-in for the viewers, frustrated that Echo's gone and that the Batch didn't go with him. Big reason why the combo with Tech had so much weight. To say that was annoying when it's arguably the most relatable character in the episode is way off base. And I agree with that still, because I think she's supposed to be a stand-in of, we're like, okay, why aren't the Batch going with Echo? Why is this episode up to this point just a normal Batch adventure? Oh, they got to go get another thing for Sid. And Omega's like, she's starting to be like Echo, like, we should be doing more. Why aren't we with Echo? Why did you just let Echo leave? And they're all just like trying to deal with it in their own way. Where Tech, I'm sure, isn't the only one that just has his own like armor or protective shield around him of how he's actually dealing with his emotions. But like Tech said, they had to deal with Crosshair leaving, they had to deal with Echo leaving, and they were soldiers. They were bred to deal with this and adapt, and they've had to lose so many brothers over the years. So they're obviously better at hiding their emotions than Omega is, who wasn't bred to be a soldier. And this is all new to her. And this is the first time that she's really lost a family member. So there's so much like complexity in the emotional moments and the conversations in this episode to where it's, yes, it is very character focused, but the weight and it just means so much in almost every conversation in this episode that I think it's definitely not. It's definitely not filler, and it's definitely not a skippable episode because it's gonna matter so much more to where if what I think is happening after or at the end of next week, I think it's going to mean so much more, especially something that we had at the end of this episode. Yeah. I think we're reaching a boiling point. I think something big's going to happen at the end of next week. But
yeah, something's going to give for sure.
Something is going to give. But we do see Omega just going her own way. She comes across another like area or another part of the cave where there's just a whole bunch of Ipsium. And I don't know why, but when I saw it and I saw how like shiny it was, my mind immediately went to, did Omega just find a kyber crystal? And I was like, are all the Omega Force sensitive like rumors like or theories? It's like, is she gonna? No, I was like, is she gonna build a saber with the little Ipsium thing? I'm like, no, but then I figured out like, yeah, no, it's Ipsium. I'm just a freaking idiot. My mind is just Jedi obsessed and automatically goes to
my mind went there too. So I understand like why you went there, Andrew, for sure, because I did as well. But it's like, definitely
what a plot twist of like,
was I the only one?
Omega comes back with a freaking lightsaber, and they're like, go ahead.
I found this really cool thing. Look, it's a laser sword. Was I the only one who was a bit concerned about Omega and Tech like mining the Ipsium from this place? Because like we got that stuff at the start about how that was Sid's mine at the start, but then they go into a different one, and it's like that belongs to someone. So I almost wonder if we're going to see some consequences of that. Just as like another detail. But like you said about like boiling point, and we kind of see as a recurring element throughout this episode of like working with Sid, it's not really working for the batch, really, because, they go to this place. Sid clearly got conned into buying a shitty mine that's got barely any Ipsium in it. And we see that, like, there's other mines around that have bountiful supplies of the mineral. And then we get towards the end when, like, they need passage off, and Sid is the complete opposite of helpful. Like, I'd be even surprised if she winds up sending help to get them. But,
no.
It's very much sending the message that Sid is untrustworthy. Sid is a problem for the batch because, they can't really trust her because she has her own interests and she doesn't make great business decisions. She's kind of a screw up in a lot of ways. And I feel like this is not only going to bite her in the rear, like as we get to the climax, but it's definitely going to impact the batch. It already is impacting the batch.
As we saw last week, it's like the missions that she's sending them on are already starting to become few and far between, because we saw last week they were just waiting for Sid to give them a mission, and that's why they were so excited and so ready to go when Rex contacted them. So now it's like, they finally send the batch on something. We don't know how much time has passed since the Echo situation happened, and to see that she just goes, I'll get to you in a couple days. Or originally it was, I can't help you. And then she hangs up on him immediately. I'll just get to it right now. Yeah. I'll get to it right now. I think they dip next week. Whether that's going back to Echo or whether that's we're going to go on our own for the time being, I think next week they say, nope, we're done. And then maybe that leads to Sid doing what we maybe thought she was going to do, and she alerts the Empire that, hey, Clone Force 99, they're still alive. Rampart was hiding this shit. or not. But I just think that the era of Sid being a part of the batch is almost over. This is maybe just me like trying to manifest it into existence because I'm so done with Sid. But
yeah,
I
you and a lot of other people, yeah.
They're just so like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, and I just they know that they can be doing so much more. Omega knows it. Echo was the only one that acted on it as of now. But I gotta imagine that Hunter and Wrecker are and like Tech was like see, Tech before this week seemed the most like, oh, we're working for Sid. Like, this is what we're doing now. But now it's like, now that we know that like we got those layers out, that he's like kind of where Omega is right now as well. So
yeah, I love how
Hunter
he's
and
like,
Wrecker, like,
yeah, you
they
owe
gotta get
us
that
without
push.
saying it outright. Like,
Yeah.
how I love how we mentioned Roland Durand, and I'm like, he's like, oh yeah, remember when we did this for Roland Durand? And I'm sitting there thinking like, I sure don't.
Yeah, I'm like, that was the worst episode of season 1. Why are you bringing that up again?
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Don't remind us.
I don't
Tech.
care they
Don't
brought it
remind us
up.
about
I
that
was
one.
just like, I don't remember, but like also it drives home the point that like we've scratched your back for a bit, Sid.
Mm-hmm.
Help. We need you to
and how she
scratch
responds.
ours.
We're going
like,
on almost 2 full seasons.
She just gives
this.
Yeah. And she just gives Tech jip for it, and then she just hangs up when they try and press the issue. She doesn't really abide by the same kind of like code of honor that the batch are actually like following at the moment. They're following kind of a code of like, oh well, let's abide by the terms of the deal we're making, kind of like how Mando often operates. But Sid is clearly Sid's clearly untrustworthy.
Yeah, I just remembered something just horrifying and upsetting. So last week we got Gonky back finally, and then this week the Marauder gets stolen, so he's gone again. Guys, Gonky, I need you to take out that bandit and bring the ship back to this planet. I do want to point out that the look of this planet, the western field of it, especially when you get
music.
to the music, and when you get to the abandoned
Fantastic.
town, oh, great
Such
design,
strong western vibes. I loved it.
Exactly. It felt really awesome. Someone said it looked like
it felt kind of like it was signaling. It felt like it was signaling a new kind of beginning in a way.
Oh yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like, this is a new beginning and a new, like, this is where we see a new place for the batch to really begin, and when they really start to find their own purpose. Someone pointed out on Twitter that this planet looks a lot like one of the planets we've seen in the trailers for Jedi Survivor. So if this is another connection,
I don't see it being Kobo.
I mean, we got Braca in season 1.
Yeah, but that was after the game.
That was after the game came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Don
mentioned,
doesn't look. Don mentioned that Faster being changed from pod racing to riot racing makes him convinced that we're going to get a riot racing game. So they deprived us of Ben Quadraneros.
A Respawn made riot racing game. That sounds pretty nice.
Because
or another developer does it.
And
yeah,
it does sound really nice.
I mean, maybe the people that are making Hunters will make it when Hunters releases in 2029.
There is that other game in development that we.
I always forget about Hunters.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, but I think
that's still supposed to be coming out. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. It's getting delayed more times than Lego Skywalker Saga was.
We shall see.
But I think let's get into the big moment of the episode now, and what we're really here to talk about is this Tech and Omega scene. Just the line of I have difficulty, just because I have difficulty showing my own emotions doesn't mean
I may process moments and thoughts differently. but it does not mean I feel any less than you.
Yep.
Perfect line. Absolutely perfect. It's a neurodivergent tech confirmed. Yep. That's now a canon
pretty
thing.
much. It pretty much is confirmed as it can get. Like without stopping the episode dead in their tracks and being like, this character is autistic or autism coded. It's like you can't do that.
Yeah.
But this was just it was just them as clear as it could be. And it meant so much to me because both Don and myself are on the autism spectrum. So to see a character in a Star Wars show be like, hey, I'm like you. I have these moments where in social situations I'm not the best, or I can't process certain cues and my emotions are a bit clouded, or I have trouble expressing myself. And obviously everyone who is neurodivergent deals with things in different ways, and we don't have the exact same difficulties all the time.
It is a spectrum after all.
It is a spectrum after all. Like I don't have a lot of the same stuff that Tech does. But to see this and just have it just as clear as day, just Tech talking this through with Omega, and for Omega to have like a greater understanding of who Tech is, how Tech's mind works, what he's going through, it got me. It was a very important conversation to have, and I had a smile on my face the whole time because I'm like, oh my god, this is like, because there's always been those like, oh, Tech is autism coded conversations in the fandom. And
we had it during our conversation about Faster.
Yeah. It's like everyone has always said that about Tech, but they haven't like fully touched upon it. So to have it like clear as day right here, it got me. I was like, it just meant a lot as a neurodivergent member of the fandom.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I feel seen. I feel represented. And now Tech he's one of my guys now. I would grab my Lego Tech over there, but there's a monitor blocking it, and I'd knock over literally everything on my desk. So we're not going to do that. But it really, we've had enough broken Legos on my end on this show to last a lifetime. But no, it got me, and I am just so grateful for the writers and the people behind this show for making the bold choice and the very clear as day choice of making Tech canon neurodivergent, because I'm sure there's other characters in the canon that are, but this is like clear as day the most like important one that we've had, and the one that's going to be seen by the most people. And it's a lot.
Completely agree with everything. It is. I completely agree.
Oddly enough, I'm having trouble expressing my emotions about this right now. So if you want to take the floor, Don, go right ahead.
You said it. You said it perfectly. I agree with everything you said about it, because it's just like, I'm sure there probably are characters within Star Wars who are coded neurodivergent, like Tech was, but it's few and far between. And we've had so much representation in Star Wars since the Disney purchase. We've had characters of different races, different sexualities. We were talking about Afra. Afra was one of the first queer characters in a Star Wars comic that we were exploring in the modern era. But we've not really seen a lot of we've not seen any neurodivergent characters in most of the comics or the games or the films or the shows. So it's great on its own that they've taken the step of all but just flat out saying yes, Tech is on the autism spectrum, he's neurodivergent, confirmed. But it was the fact that the writers handled it with care. Yeah. That it was made an organic part of the story. It was made an organic part of the conversation with Omega. And, Tech isn't judged for reading it wrong. He goes and apologizes to Omega, but also he tries to help Omega understand that his brain is just, it's wired differently to hers. He processes and experiences things in a different way, and it's a great metaphor as well for the fact
Omega,
that Tech, through his experience, through his experiences, he is processing the loss of Echo much differently to her, not just because he's a soldier, he processes emotions. Yeah, because he's also a soldier as well. He's got that whole life experience. He has been through so much more loss than Omega, and he's had to kind of deal with it in that way. But the fact that he is adaptable as well, I said about it during the faster recap that we did. I just love that he's been shown to be so adaptable, because it means he doesn't fall into the stock type. Because it would be very easy for him to like be like a, I don't know, a Sheldon Cooper, where he's not only like unaware of people's emotions, he's kind of like, he's grossly insensitive, and he also has these weird routines that he has to do all the time. And it's like, yes, that's how it works for some autistic people. For some people on the spectrum, not always. It's not a catch-all thing. It's a spectrum. There's so many different permutations of neurodivergency, and the fact that Tech is shown to actually be adaptable, to be able to deal with this loss to an extent, and to be able to actually provide some comfort to someone else eventually when he realizes the distress she's going through. It's really nice. They used it to deepen the characters, deepen our understanding of the characters, develop bonds between characters. And it's just like, again, we said this at the start. It's so great. This is the third episode where we have seen some great development for Tech. Tech was practically ignored through all of season 1, aside from exposition, and to see him get this development and to have this kind of representation through him, it's great. I could honestly talk for hours about it.
I love that Tech's getting this development, and like you said, it didn't feel quote unquote forced or anything. It was the crux of the conversation. It's like, you're mad at me, this is why I'm processing this differently. Here's how you can get a better understanding. And then I feel like Omega and Tech grew closer as a result, especially at the end when Omega mimics Tech and just parrots his line of, we'll get through this. We always do, which I love.
that.
But I just want to say, I haven't scoured the cesspool of the Star Wars fandom to see if people have been saying this yet. But I'll tell you what, if I see one person saying that this is woke or Disney Star Wars pandering again, you're blocked on the spot, and I'm going to scorch earth on you. That's just how it is. Because it's not them going woke. It's not trying to be diverse. It's people like this exist in the real world. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen on Twitter that have pointed out how much this meant to them. So if you're again going to say that representation doesn't matter, go fuck yourself, because it does. And that's just
because the whole point.
All I'm going to say on this, I don't want to just like be like, oh, this is important to me. I don't want to like get on a pedestal here or anything, but it's just like, again, for people to say it doesn't matter, you're goddamn out of your mind. And that's just all I have to say on that.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm done. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I will add on to that is that, the whole point about like Star Wars, the whole thing that drew people into Star Wars and made it so exciting and such an amazing story is that despite all the weirdness, despite all the weird aliens and like strange narrative digressions that seem to happen, this world found a way to connect with people, and they did that by having characters who you could relate to. Like Han Solo was such a popular character because people could relate to him. He felt like a regular guy, or at least a Hollywood approximation of a regular guy, had just walked in into the film and was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just a chill guy. I'm not a wizard. I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular guy like you, and this is actually kind of a fun place. And
George
so
Lucas has said that like the thing that made the universe work was they had all these wild, outlandish elements and all these different species, but they just treated it like it was normal, and like that's just how it is here. And because of that,
exactly,
boom, it worked. You don't have to stop and be like, "Whoa, big hairy Wookiee thing. What is that? So creepy and crazy. It's like, whoa, that's like a giant dog thing. Like they don't do that. So like again, to say that this is outlandish
because it's like the whole. No.
Go right ahead. Yeah, no, it's so I can't stand it. But again, I loved this scene. It was such a
same because
it was one of my favorite scenes of the whole
there was
season.
there was some stuff there.
Same.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
It was
I love it because the only thing I will say is that it's made the universe. I lost my point for a second because everything went like wappy at my end signal wise. But all I was going to add on was that all this does is it helps connect us more to the characters. It helps us, it makes people like you and me, Andrew, who are on the spectrum. We feel seen and we feel we can relate to Tech because we've both said Tech wasn't even a character that was high on our lists among the batch. He was kind of middle for me. But I relate to him so much more as a character, especially now that that element of him that has been speculated about is explicit. I have a connection point. And oftentimes, that's what you need to connect to a character. So it is, it's not being woke. It's finding a way to connect to people who feel seen in Star Wars.
Give a character
just like it was with Finn, just like it was with Rey.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We're still building these characters, and like, again, Omega is probably my favorite of the group. So to have her have that development through Tech, and also just to have them share that moment together in the middle of this, like, oh, we just almost died because we just got swept away in this current in this river in the cave. It really worked, and it was such a great moment. Everything, just the lighting of the scene, everything was great. And then it had that little levity of comedy at the end.
The idiom was great.
Falling down the waterfall, which was just, I loved it. That clip I've seen several times now. And then after that, they get out of the cave. They're able
also
to
the Wrecker just lugging huge boulders out of the way.
Yeah,
that was great.
They're able to use the Ipsium. Tech just very precisely shoots it, so they get out of the cave. They go to find that town that they were trying to get to at the beginning of the episode, and it's abandoned. And then that's when we get the conversation with Sid. She's like, "Yeah, I'll get to you in a few days." Hangs up on him. So I'm assuming next week the Batch are going to get out of this on their own. They'll find the Marauder, and Sid will go bye-bye. Is my hope. But it would, like I think Don said earlier, it would be cool if Crosshair shows up again, or if Echo and Rex factor into it somehow. Because my little guy Crosshair, he's only shown up once this season, and it's been a couple weeks. So
how wild is that?
I need you back.
Yeah,
I need you back, my my hot voiced brother. Just get back in the group, please.
I would be fine with them. Yeah, I would be fine with them missing the ship for like a few episodes, even, because like it's an interesting plight. For
it would be a
be
nice change of pace. I do
like
have
they've lost their home.
Before we wrap things up, I do have one big question, because there's been a lot of teases of members of the Batch getting in like big danger this season, and we've seen Echo leave the group for the time being. Do we think a member of the group is going to die by the end of the season?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
I'm not sure about.
I'm just seeing the story as it unfolds.
I think one of them could get killed off.
Yeah. I don't know, because I thought it was. I thought if they were gonna kill someone, it was gonna be Echo. But now I don't think they're gonna do that, because he kind of already had his like a character arc,
his departure,
where he leaves the group. Yeah. And I think he'll eventually come back, and I think the group will eventually join him. No, I don't think. I think Tech and Hunter are safe. I don't think
Tech will die because the optics. I actually don't think Hunter's safe. I think Hunter would be a very clear choice to kill off, because he's the father figure. He is the one who's kind of keeps them together for the most part. So to kill Hunter would be a massive shift. in the story.
I think I've been
it would
leaning towards if they
massively
were
diverge
gonna
from
take someone
what we were
out, it would
expecting.
be either Echo or Wrecker. But again, Crosshair is also always an option, but I think that would be cheap. I think Crosshair
Wrecker
needs
would
to
be an
live.
instant tearjerker.
Oh, 100%. But no, I don't know.
I think he does. I feel like Crosshair has so much more left.
Yeah, no, I feel they're safe, but we'll see. We'll see. I just really enjoyed the episode. It was a nice, self-contained episode while also being a part of a larger story, not being standalone. And we'll see where this goes, and hopefully it leads to some big stuff happening next season. So I need to dip, so we're going to wrap things up right now. Thank you all for joining us on this week's episode of our Bad Batch recaps. Technical difficulties and all. It's not a perfect ship we run here, but it'll do just fine.
It floats.
That's why they call it the Millennium
We're weathering
Falcon
a storm
podcast.
of our own here.
Exactly. We're trying to find our own version of the Marauder right now because it got stolen from us. But yeah, no, thanks for joining us. Don, if you want to let people know where they can find you.
Right, so you can find me on social media. You can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead. I post Star Wars, Marvel, DC stuff on the regular. You can also find me on TikTok, I believe, at Donovan McComish. Yeah, at Donovan McComish, where I've posted a few videos. I'm going to try and post some more. You can also find me on Instagram under Donovan_McComish. Which has been a bit inactive. Also, same handle on Hive. And you can find me along with Conor and Andrew on sweditorig.com, where I write and publish articles about Star Wars. And we're also all part of what we call SWEF, which is a series of interconnected short stories and webcomics that basically try and stay within the confines of current Star Wars canon, telling a few characters from the Legends timeline. I have written the one story that released back in June last year. It is called Scars of War. It takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. Clone trooper called Blister who encounters a Jedi survivor of Order 66 called Shar Kun.
All right. Conor, how about you?
It was a lot of fun to write, and Jake also did.
This connection, man, it's killing us. It's killing us. But yeah, no, Scars of War, it was
this
great.
connection just keeps dipping. Yeah, I will finish by... Yeah, it's a really fun story. Jake did amazing artwork for it. That was... I'll finish it out now.
All right, Mr. Takiti.
Oh, wow. Twitter and Hive, both at Depa Banana.
Oh, yeah.
On Twitter, I just talk Star Wars and Philadelphia sports. Go Birds. Go Phils. Instagram, pretty much more of the same. You can find me there at ConmanJFO. I co-host also at the Nerd Academy podcast, specifically our Star Wars show called Knights of the Nerd Republic. I co-host that with Jared the Dark Jedi. We talk Star Wars there. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. I write Star Wars trivia questions along with that guy down there, Donovan, as well as my other co-host, Eli, from In a Galaxy Pod, for In a Galaxy Epic Confrontations, a Star Wars fan trivia league that I'm really honored to be a part of. It's really fun writing Star Wars trivia questions. You can find our latest matches over on the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel. So yeah, check that out. And then sweditor.ig.com/fiction. Like Don said, interconnected fan stories that keep within the Star Wars canon while also adding our own unique flavor to it. I don't have any stories published. Right now, we have 19 published as of this recording. I have a few in development. I got one coming out in April. It's called The Knight's Welcome. It features Cal Kestis, one of my favorite Jedi, and the short synopsis is a fateful encounter with a mysterious being leads Cal to discover secrets of the Force he once thought impossible. And that comes out sometime in April. Don't know when.
All right. I would like to do a compilation one day of just the various dates that we've said for the release of this story, and just go from
Two
there.
stories.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's coming in this day. It's different every week. But you can find me
It's a TikTok waiting to happen.
Exactly. You
God.
can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Starlight Andrew. You can also follow the pod on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, For the Republic Podcast. Also, you can make sure you check us out Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Leave us a review. That'll really help the pod grow. And yeah, just keep supporting the pod however you can. We will be back soon, eventually, with our coverage of the Ryloth arc for the Clone Wars. It was supposed to be tomorrow. That's not happening anymore. It's going to happen at some point within the next week. And then we'll be back for the continuation of their batch's journey to find the Marauder again next week. So until next time, see y'all later, and may the Force be with you always.